Evenly distributing and aligning your objects in a visio diagram is what makes it aesthetically pleasing or easier to look at for yourself and those that you are presenting this information to. In this video, I'm going to show you how to take those objects, distribute them just right, evenly align them in just the way you want them to be done. Also, I'm going to show you how to group those objects using colors and various layers of colors in such a way to communicate how those objects are grouped. Yet again, is another way to communicate what you want to the viewer of your diagrams. All right, so here we go. Okay, so if I'm drawing a series of nodes, I will usually use these squares on the grid to get a standard size. But once you start with one, you just want to hit the control key on your keyboard, then left mouse click, and then just drag and drop some others of the same size. Now, if you're, say for instance, you're making a series of them, if you want to make sure they're evenly spaced, highlight them all, or actually click the first one, hold the control key down, and hit the next one and the next one and the next one while holding the control key down. I think they will align off of this first one that was clicked, or the first one that was selected. Go to position, and to align them on the top edge, you would hit this, or to align them on the bottom edge, you would hit this. Okay, so let's align them on the top edge. Now, you may have barely seen them move, so let me mess them up a little bit. So just to show that it is in fact going to be on the top edge, it's pretty clear that, you know what, I'm going to put a line right here. I'm going to put an imaginary line for us to look at. Okay, and so there's a line. Make it clear. So just to show that this first one that you select is the base of the alignment. Hold the control key down, select the others, go to position, align on the top, and there you go. See that they aligned on the top. Now, if you hit Control Z, it will undo that and it'll put them all back to where they were before. Let's test this theory again. Hit this one first, hold the control key down, hit that one, and that one using your left mouse key. Now, since I selected this one first, it is a darker pink outline. I think that's signifying that it is the base object of the alignment. So let's hit position, align on the top, and there we go. So that proves that the first one that you select is the base of your alignment. All right. And I stand corrected. I mentioned if you want to make sure those are evenly spaced. I meant to say if you want to make sure they're appropriately aligned on the top or the bottom edge, or as I can show here, if you want to make sure they are appropriate or effectively aligned on the left or right edge, you can see that these are kind of scattered about. And if you want to make sure they're aligned on the left or right edge, pick the one that you want them to be aligned on, just like we previously talked about. Start with that one and hit the control key. If this is the one you want them to be aligned on, say for instance on the left edge, then click the others and then position on the left. And there you go. They're aligned on the left edge. Okay. Now, you can see there's a bigger gap here than the others. If you want to make sure they're distributed evenly, highlight them all. Now, interestingly, this one on the bottom is the last one selected. Okay, and so they're going to be distributed evenly from there to the next one. So I think it is this one right here, auto align in space. So click on that. Wait, hold on a second. Space. Here we go. So position, distribute horizontally. Okay, distribute vertically. So you see that when we selected that, they are now distributed evenly. Now a way to check this, just a way to check it, if you ever needed to check something like this, just to sanity check it. Look at that. Create a box that goes from edge to edge. And then hold your control key down and left click and drag, and look at that. It drops right in between those other ones. Do it again. And so you're just simply proving to yourself that they are in fact evenly distributed. To connect those, you use a connector tool. I think we talked about this in a previous video. And once it highlights red, it's ready to click. Click it, go to the next one. All right, and the default connector tool is a bending object. If you want it to remain straight, right click on it and change it to a straight connector like that. Then when you move this, it stays straight. You can just highlight it with your left mouse click, then hit the control key and left mouse click and drag again. I've continued to show you over and over again how to replicate objects like that. Okay, so once you've got one side of your diagram done, if you want to do the same thing again, highlight the whole thing once again. Hold the control key down, click and drag. Okay, move that over here. Say for instance you just wanted to have two sides of this diagram done like this. And again, if you want this aligned with this one, you would now, if you want one object aligned with another one, hold that down and hit Control G. It becomes an entire object. You see how it's highlighted now in a blue outline? So it's kind of created like it's treated like a whole object now. See, this one is individual objects still. Control G. Now click the first one, click the next one, and align on the top. And now they get aligned appropriately. Then if you highlight the whole thing, Control Shift U, it ungroups everything, and now you have your individual objects once again. So that's a nice way to take a bunch of objects and make two single objects so that you can align them appropriately. And then you can ungroup them, and they can be back to their unique objects once again. If you wanted to connect your diagram like this, you could. You know, if this is a network topology and it's in a ring fashion, now you have a completely symmetric and aligned diagram. It's not necessarily aligned on the paper, on the piece of paper. Now, view, fit to window is a nice way of getting your diagram fully in the viewing space. Now, if you want to know if this whole thing is centered on the diagram, I may have shown this in a previous video, but I'll show once again. Create a little square. Click this square up here. Go from corner to corner. You have a line right, a dot in the middle there. What I like to do is draw a line from that. Then, if you highlight all your objects in the middle there, there's a little blue dot there in the middle, and you just align that right on that line that you know is centered. Use your keyboard. Sometimes the mouse doesn't give you the fine manipulations that you want when you're clicking and dragging this around. Resort to using the arrows on your keyboard. Okay, see, and drill into it. The closer you drill into it, look at that. When you use the Control Shift keys on your keyboard, and then you use the left or right mouse keys on your mouse, if the left one is a plus, it drills in, and the right mouse click is a minus, basically. and it comes out. I think I showed that also on a previous video, but it's always good to remember those. It's a real quick way to drill in and out of your diagram. So as you can see, the closer you drill in, the more you realize it's not quite aligned. So now you can use the arrows on your keyboard, and look at that. Put that blue square right there on that line that you know is centered of the page. Okay? You can do the same thing going up and down. I'm going to show you something here. Take this square you already created, left mouse click, Control on your keyboard, left mouse click, drag. Let's get rid of that. First, design, auto size. Turn that off so it won't grow your diagram without you wanting it to. Again, let's replicate this object. Now, Control L will flip that once to the left. Control L on the keyboard will flip it again and again and again and again. So holding the control key down, you can hit L and it just rotates this object to the left. If you hit R, it's actually rotating it to the right. You can't really tell unless I maybe put a word in there and you can see how it's flipping it around. Orientation. Just use the word orientation so you can kind of get an idea of how this object is at the moment. So if I hit a Control L, see how it's flipping that word around? Let's get closer to that so you can see it. Let me make this a little smaller so you can see what's going on here. So Control L, see how it flipped that? Control L. We're basically going counterclockwise. Control R will go to the right, and I think this video is showing it backwards. But anyway, it's showing my finger backwards. But Control R would go to the right, which is clockwise. See how it's flipping that? Okay, so anyway, all that to say, let me get rid of this object now, since I've just taught a concept. Let me get back to what I was doing. Let's replicate that object. Control L, flip it once to the left. Now you can put that on this edge over here, corner to corner. And that's not quite where I want it. There we go. That's not quite where I want it. There we go. Then you have a center on the vertical. You can even Control L this line. Control L that line. Get it on the blue dot. Not quite on the blue dot. Let's go down a little bit. I think that's there. Now click on it. Oh, there we go. So this object, as I click on the square or the rectangle, shows that those blue dots are in fact on that black line. So now we can... Now, if I just take this line and click it and drag it over here, sometimes it's hard to get it to be perfectly flat. So I'm going to Control Z, get it back to where it was. Control G, I'm going to turn a line into a grouped object, which sounds kind of funny, but you're taking what is a line that's manipulated on a point on each end of it at any degree. You can go up or down on either edge. And if you control G that line, it turns it into an object that's only able to grow left or right. Do you see how if I click that edge, it shows the arrow can only go left or right? Control Shift U ungroups it. So the alternative is a true line can go in any direction. It can go up and down. So sometimes you don't want a line to go in every direction. You just want it to be exactly flat and drag it left or right. So let's do that again. Control G. And now you know you can grow it to this side over here and it stays flat. The reason for that is we just wanted to be able to align this in an up and down fashion. So now let's make sure our network diagram is blue dot, and as you can see, back out here, it looks like it's touching that black line, but when you get closer, it's not. So now use the up arrow on your keyboard, and boom, right there. Blue dot is right on that alignment that we created. So get rid of all your little tools that you created And now view, fit to window, and you know your network diagram is perfectly centered. If you know a quicker way to center those objects that we drew up and down and side to side on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, drop me a comment in the video. I'd like to know. And yeah, I do think I am repeating myself in some of these Visio videos, and I apologize, but if somebody's coming in late and just catching this first Visio video of mine, then it's worth repeating. I do recall also someone reminding me in a comment that you don't have to click left mouse or right mouse if you have a wheel. Look at that, I'm doing it with my wireless mouse. If you have a wheel, you can roll in and out. Very nice. So float your cursor over whichever object you want to drill into. Roll the mouse away from you to pull the diagram closer to you, or roll the mouse towards you to make the diagram go further away. All right? So pretty cool. You don't have to click, you can just roll the mouse. Now if you wanted to create a logical grouping and signify that with, say for instance, a colored background, say for instance you wanted to use a oval and say all these are of a certain type or a certain grouping identifier, and you draw this oval and it's sitting on the top of it. If you right click on it and say send to the back, it sends it to the back of all those objects. So that's very nice. You can fill the color of the object by going here to fill. Let's fill it with that color. And now if we wanted to do the same thing to the other side, we could do that. We can align them by clicking the first one, click the second one, align on the top, go to this one, right click on it, send to the back. But then if you wanted to also identify the entire network with a color, you would again say send to the back, and you could color that also. You could fill that with a certain color, also like that. Now, if you even wanted to give, now, if you ever came into a situation where this one, I'm going to send it to the back. If it ended up behind the other one, then you need to right click this one and send it to the back, which will then in turn bring the other one back to the front. If the outlines on the color groupings were a little much and you just wanted the color shading of that shape around those objects, but you didn't want the black line, use the control key on your keyboard and just select with your left mouse key all those objects that you don't want a black line on, all three of those, and then go to line, no line. And now all of the black outlines are gone on those colored objects, but your colored objects remain. If you wanted to round out the corners on this blue square, right click on it, go to line options down here, and then you have rounded corners. Okay, so we'll just click this one right here. And then you will see, after you hit apply, that your corner is rounded now on that. If you want to add another grouping on top of an existing grouping, but show the overlaid grouping colors, I'm going to show you a way to do that. We'll use a rectangle in this case. Let's use a rectangle, and let's show that these objects in the center also have a logical grouping. Let's give those a color. Let's pick a color that we haven't used yet. We'll pick this shade of red or maroon. We can leave the line or get rid of it. In this case, we'll get rid of it. Now, you can't see those squares underneath it now. And if we say right click and send to the back, well, then it goes all the way to the back. Then you need to highlight this one and highlight with holding the shift key down or the control key down on your keyboard. Highlight those three objects and tell them to go to the back also. You can also send to the back over here as well. And now it brings that forward also. So now it shows the grouping of those four objects in the middle, and it also maintains the grouping colors as they were before. If you want to add a level of transparency to this, there's a really cool way to do this. Right click on this red object, go to Format, Fill, and using this fill side here, you've got a fill side and a shadow side. We're just concerned with the fill side right here. If you take this bar and slide it, or simply type inside here, we'll type 50, and when you click off of it or hit enter, you'll see that it now possesses a level of transparency, which is a nice way of seeing the overlaid red grouping color and also seeing the underlay orange grouping color. Hey, that's all I have for now. I hope this came in handy to you, and I look forward to the next one.